All right, hello everyone. My name is Disc, and in this video we are just going to take a look at the first boss of Brackenhide Hollow. And for the week we are Tyrannical, Incorporeal, and Spiteful. I think it's a really particular boss that requires us to play our kit in a very specific way to get through it. I will say boss 1, it makes all the difference when you have a composition, a group comp that is built for it. And in this example, we actually had a really good comp, but I still wanted to go over the play of spells. And just as a quick little tidbit of information, I wanted to get this video out early in the week, so maybe this weak aura could help people. But I made this weak aura. I'm doing it for the Claw Fighter as well, but it puts a glow on the nameplate of the mob that's targeting you. So I think it's really important to maybe have like a weak aura that gives you an audible notice if you're targeted, but I think that's only half the picture. I think you also need to see who is targeting you, and a little nameplate glow like this is just super helpful, so I'm going to link that. And then before we get going, I think it's really good to kind of pick through bigwigs. I wish I could share my profile, but I can't. I do think it's really valuable as an individual to kind of read through here and customize it yourself, but I always preach trying to disable as much as you can. And for boss 1, it kind of operates all around the gash frenzy, so that's kind of that's the only bar timer I'm tracking. But just because, for example, something like the marked for butchery, just because I'm not tracking it through bigwigs doesn't mean I'm not tracking it. So this is an example where my handy dandy weak aura for targeted casts come into play. So I don't really care to see the spell timer. More importantly, with this spell, kind of like the Spiteful weak aura, I need to see who is being targeted, and that's what the targeted cast weak aura does. I think it's like a 2.6 second cast. So if you can see where it's going before the person is being attacked, it gives you the advantage. And as a healer, especially Disc, if you're ever reacting to damage, you're always going to be one step behind. It's better to see where it's going ahead of time, take the higher ground. That'll really empower you as a healer, Disc or otherwise. And I think that's about it for the opener of this video. I actually have to get to a key, but let's go ahead and clip over to the main video. All right, so here we go. I wanted to back up this clip a little bit so we could take a look at the shade weak aura, and there you go right there. So it will put a glow on any shade that's targeting you, and I think that really helps to keep an eye on their position in relation to your own and not get hit. So I think that's great for healers. You always have to protect your health if you're a melee especially. But last little thing I'll say is I'm still voting for Squid build. I'm having so much fun doing it. I do think there's a higher skill cap, but that's kind of something that interests me. The most common comment on my last video was people couldn't believe I wasn't playing what WoW had said. And I'm just really not that type person in WoW, out of WoW. I feel like I have a lot of knowledge and experience playing Disc, and I like to kind of develop my own opinions. And I think Squid build is plenty viable. I think if you were to compare that maybe to the other popular spec right now, they both have the healing capabilities. One does more damage for more work, one does less damage for less work. So I think when it comes to like what Wowhead is recommending, I think you need to take into account that every type article, any article written for journalism purposes, always has an angle. And I think the reason that this is being promoted right now is because it leans to be easier and leans to be safer, being that you kind of play with absorb values rather than just green output. But in a Mythic Plus, I just always vote DPS, DPS, DPS. All right, so here we go with boss 1. It's really important we have a harsh discipline locked and loaded because this will really easily mitigate one of the dots. And we do not have enough time for a Shadow Covenant window, so we open with defensives. Barrier and Rapture, really trying to take care of the front end of that attack. And then I use my defensive penance to take care of the last dot remaining. And right here on the Hunter, we see the white dotted line. That is the targeted cast for the marked for butchery. And first round is successful. We always want to stay away from Rita because she cleaves. And this is our Mindbender window, focus target, Gash Tooth. I think he's kind of always the focus target. That's definitely the strategy of this group. And I'm really aiming for all of my Torment spells here. Trying to get as much out of this little interim as I can. And you'll notice with Bigwigs, all I'm tracking is Gash Frenzy. That's where I need to be prepared. And I've been toying with trying to get a dot on that totem before I'm polymorphed. Not happened yet, but I think it's possible. And anticipating the next Gash Frenzy, I pain up myself. Harsh Discipline is locked and loaded. And I use a defensive penance into myself first. Yeah, so defensive penance are your best friend here. I think it's the best play for a Disc Priest. I really don't think Atonement heals, even if you have a perfect ramp, will outmatch the power of that dot. So the Hunter here is getting waxed by that Whirlwind. I didn't have him atoned, so this was a little bit of an aggressive DPS window for myself. I do think he just shouldn't have been hit by the Whirlwind, but yeah, so after Gash Frenzy, after the dots are taken care of, that is your opportunity to DPS. And there was another totem. I keep trying to get a dot on it, but I have not been successful yet. And the next focus target, you want to go for the caster. Possibly at this point, you would just go for whoever is closest to dying. But we have just enough time for one more DPS phase. So I have a full ramp, Harsh Discipline locked and loaded, dot is out, Atonement's on the tank. Schism first, Shadow Covenant, Mindbender, Mind Blast, Death, Dark Reprimand. Aiming for all 7 Torments now that we are in execute range. And that was about it. So if you quickly glance at the DPS overall, I'm sitting right at 44.8 thousand per second, and that is from 1 Room of Trash and 1 boss, which I think will really highlight the strengths of this build. And important to note, I still don't have 4-piece, which I kind of think is made for Squid build. So I'm really eager to get that hopefully next week, and I think that will alleviate a lot of the button bloat and make this talent build a lot more accessible. So I hope you also like my Shade Weaker. I think it is very helpful to keep an eye on their positions. Thank you for tuning in, everyone, and until next time, Disc.